All right, what is up, everybody? Shadow Scout 0013 here, reporting in for another kind of unit breakdown and some list building, just to kind of give you guys an idea about the obviously Mandalorian Super Commandos that are right here, right in front of you and in front of me. Kind of want to talk about them and some potential builds and just kind of see where they go, what you could do, and if you do use them, let me know how effective they are, because I'm always torn. I always want to use these Mandos because I feel like they could be better than the Rebel Mandos. It's just so hard because Rebel Mandos have nimble, and so they always have not a shield, but they've always got, unless they have situational awareness, but they always have at least some dodge on them. So they're always able to cancel something. Now, the Mandos have shields, but those shields dissipate, and you can't use them after they're gone, which kind of sucks, but that's all you got. But yeah, we'll go over the Mandalorian Super Commandos today and the different builds and kind of what to include with them, what synergizes with them the most, and what kind of lists you can make with them. But first, if you haven't already, go ahead and head to the Discord, where we talk about everything. We talk about the shores from last week, and we've talked about any kind of other Empire chat where we've just got, lists and talking, and yeah, here's the lists and stuff that, we'll keep submitting and, giving advice about. And yeah, so feel free to join in at any point in time. And, if you got a question about a list, go ahead and put it in there. We will, try and talk about it and or at least give you some pointers. And maybe if you do have questions and you really, really want to talk about a list, then become a member of Patreon, where if you do become a Shadow Clan commander, basically you can submit a list to me that you'd like to go in detail, or I would like to go in detail with you about, basically, so you have a really good understanding of the list that works. Or if you have a list that you're trying to hack out and you need some really good help, like some one-on-one help, then let me know. Just become a member of Patreon, and from there you also get everything a week early. So basically, I'm going over some different objectives and kind of ways to go about them, and the units that are really great at those specific objectives. And I post everything a week early if I can, or if not, at least a few days in advance, so that everyone in Patreon has lots of extra little videos and extra little things to do. And then also, lastly, if you haven't already, go ahead and head to theburnacademy.com for $15 a month. You could subscribe, download the app, and get 3, 4, 5, and 6 day week workout plans, corrective exercise program, 30-minute torture program, at-home workouts, 120 different recipes, coaching videos, so much at your fingertips when you're in the gym to make sure you're succeeding. Even if you're not at the gym and you're just doing at-home stuff, let me know, and I'll even give you some more at-home workouts that wouldn't typically be included with this. Just let me know that you got it from this video or any of my other YouTube videos, and yeah, I will go ahead and give you those at-home stuff. All right, so let's take a look at the Mandalorian Super Commandos. Now, I remember when I made a video when they first came out, but let's just kind of talk about some of the things now. So they've got Jump 2, obviously. Every Mando's pretty much got Jump 2, which is awesome built in. I love it being built in. Kind of unlike the ARC Troopers, where you have to upgrade them with a jetpack rocket, or jetpacks, I should say, for 10 points. Whew. Then these guys already have it, which is awesome. Then they have Defend 1, so after you are issued an order, you gain a dodge token. They also have Independent Aim 1, so at the start of the activation phase, if you don't have an order token, you gain an aim. So they kind of benefit either or. If you give them an order, they get a dodge. If you don't give them an order, they get an aim. So it's kind of just like, that's awesome. Like, you're getting free tokens, which is amazing. Then they have Impervious, so if you're going up against an army that has a lot of Pierce, which you might start seeing a lot of, then at least they're going to last a little longer, hopefully, because maybe they can add that extra dice. And they do surge to defense with red dice, so they might get it. They also have Courage 2. They have 1 health each, sadly. And there's only 3 of them in a unit by themselves for 75 points. Now, if you just were to take them naked, I'm sure you could probably fit a lot of different stuff. And maybe, what we'll do is I'll just kind of make a small list right here in front of you guys with 4 naked ones and just kind of see what you can do with them. And then they have a range 1 to 3 attack, which is different than the Rebel Mandos. The Rebel Mandos only have a range 1 to 2, 2 black, but they do surge. These guys don't. But at least they've got a range 1 to 3 attack, which is way better in my opinion. Then they still have they've got 2 black dice in melee versus the Rebels have a black and a white. Again, they surge though at least. So these guys have a stronger combat or melee dice pool, and then they also have a range 1 to 3 dice pool, which is super nice. And then they're all speed 3. Now there's a ton of different upgrades that you can give on to them, and they are a Maul unit. So anytime that you have Maul right here, same exact symbol, and if you do give them the Darksaber, then he's going to become a commander, and you're going to be able to use his courage 3 for all of the Mandos. So that's a great way of creating an army that allows you to get the 2 actions you need, or sorry, the 1 action you need without actually panicking. Now, the different types of upgrades. Let's start with just the weapon upgrade. Now, you can attach the Super Commando jetpack rockets, which are now technically range 1 to 4, which is way better than the Rebel Commando or Rebel Mandos, because they have it only at range 3 to 4. At least with this one, if you didn't get it off the first round at range 4, if you moved in a little bit, or if someone did move in a little bit faster, you can still use it at range 2. So, and it's blast, so no cover, especially with the new cover rules. Blast is awesome, but they can still use dodges to cancel. So that's why, 4 red dice coming in to a person that's got 2 dodges, it is critical 1 and impact 1 for each dice. So you would be rolling 4 for a full Mando unit, and then that would give you critical 4, impact 4. So if you were going up against an armor list and you had 3 different commandos, or 4, and that when they all had this and you were all stacked out with 4 Mandos in each one, that's 12 different red dice coming in. That's all critical, all impact. So that could probably take out, if if the ATST were to fail on every one of their rolls, you could take out an ATST in round 1 with just the Mandalorian Super Commandos, because blast, critical, and impact, you're basically hopefully getting all the crits, like every crit. And so yeah, it's best used against armor. It's okay against troopers, because troopers can still dodge even though there's no cover, and it's only 4 dice, so it's not a really big dice pool, so you just got to be careful. Then they do have the Super Commando shields, which they gain 2 shields, but then it disappears. You can't recharge them, nothing like that. But let's take a look at, the other gear slots that are available for them. Ascension cables, you don't need. You've got jump. Electro binoculars, you're not going to be wasting an action giving someone an aim, because you might have an aim from independent, and you want to spend those actions from the super Commandos. You want to spend both of their actions trying to do something, not hand out stuff. They're not a support group. Emergency stims, there is a definite spot for emergency stims on them, because they need to stay alive. If maybe you don't have enough points for the combat shield, you can at least do the emergency stims to keep them alive a little bit longer, and maybe for the rest of the round, because you'd put the wounds on here instead of them. So during an attack, when you would suffer wounds, you can prevent up to 2 wounds, place an equal number of the wound tokens on this card instead. So if you put them on the Super Commandos and then they took 2 wounds, well, you can put it on this card if you really needed to keep them alive a little bit more, or have them take more hits. So there you go. That's a good one to have. Environmental gear and grappling hooks, just throw out. Portable scanners, throw out. You don't need them on there. Prepared supplies would also be very good on the Commandos. Recon intel could be okay on the Mandos, and targeting scopes, there's definitely a case for that as well, but for the most part, I'd bring the combat shields or emergency stims, mostly because that gives them the ability to either take the wounds and not roll for them, or, you know, just kind of do what they can to survive another round. Now, it is exhaustible, which is funny, but I guess if you were to somehow heal them with a heal bot, those 2 wounds off of them, or bring back a Mando, then you were to give them the 2 wounds again, and then you were to refresh, and that it's funny, but no one ever really refreshes them. All right, now for the grenades, I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe the frag grenades, because when you get into range 2, maybe if you're at range 1, each one's gonna be throwing this, and you do gain a surge to crit, so maybe you spend 1 of them throwing a red, and then 3 of them throwing, black dice, so you have 7 dice at range 1 that surge to crit. Not bad. But I don't know. It's a possibility, but they're already so expensive, I wouldn't waste 5 points or 3 points on a grenade. The Super Commando, upgrades for the comms links, comms jammer, always a possibility. Comms relay, nah, there's no point. You can, but there's really no point in it, because, if you had a comms relay on here, maybe you give them an order and you wanted the aim instead, then that's could be why you put it on there. But for the most part, they're already getting an order, and I would rather just go ahead and leave out comms relay. You don't need it. Emergency transponders, sometimes they're not going to be getting an order, so that would actually be very awesome to have on them. HQ uplink, you can, but they're so expensive already. And I'll show you. Hacked comms link, long range comm link, it's a possibility. Hacked comms link would actually be the cheaper way to give them an order, especially if you're trying to get them up close. And then hacked comms unit could actually work. So, like, maybe you just decided to have, Rook cast because you were going with Maul, and maybe that was the only one you had. Maybe either go with the emergency transponders, or if Maul's getting in and you're trying to bring the Super Commandos in as well, maybe hacked comms unit would actually be good on that. Just kind of depends. And then at the moment, let's go with the training slot. So duck and cover, no. Endurance, but if you have Maul with Courage 3, you don't necessarily need the endurance. Hunter, sure, there's a possibility of having Hunter on them. Into the fray, not necessary. Offensive push, that could be a really, really good one, especially if you wanted 2 aims, especially when you're rolling. If you had Rook in there, you're rolling, 12 dice? Because she's rolling 4, and then you have 8 because of you'd have 6 plus another 4, so 10 dice altogether. Yeah, so there's 4 plus another 2, 4, 6. Yeah, so 10 dice. It's not bad. It is a pretty big dice pool, and they don't surge, so having those 2 aims might actually be helpful. So offensive push could come in handy. Overwatch, you're probably not taking a standby for the most part. They probably move, and so, yeah, I'd keep them moving. They're highly mobile. Use that. Up close and personal, that could be a very good training, upgrade for them. But again, they're so expensive, you just gotta kind of have to watch out what you're using. Tenacity, sure, but still too expensive. Situational awareness, probably I would do, because they have defend 1, so they get a dodge, so maybe you want to keep them alive a little bit more. So situational awareness is probably the top upgrade I would give them for training. Offensive push, maybe the second best upgrade I'd give them. And then maybe up close and personal is the third. And so this is where it gets really, really tough. So you have the Mandalorian Super Commando, who has 2 surge tokens that you can use whenever you want for 24 points. Perfect. Easy peasy. Just an extra commando. Rook cast. I'd have Rook cast with Maul, because she has retinue with Maul. So that's a free token at range 1 to 2. And yeah. So maybe you give them an order, and you had Rook cast, you could gain 2 dodges that turn. And then if you had situational awareness and you still had your 2 shields, you're really keeping this unit alive drastically. Then you have the Super Commando Gunslinger, which has lethal 1. So whenever, you don't give them an order, they have an aim. So maybe you move, you shoot, you've got an aim, just roll it, and you've got or maybe you just, instead of re-rolling, you spend your aim for lethal to gain Pierce. So, there's always that. That's always a good one to have, especially with 4 dice. An extra 4 dice is really nice to have for 30 points. And then for 30 points, you can also get another, person. But it's a range 1 to 3 instead. And they have a rainbow, which is also good to have. And it's also, precise. So whenever you do have that aim, you can re-roll up to 3 instead of 1. And you don't have to get your commandos so close. You can kind of keep them a little bit farther away and just kind of make sure you take those pot shots. So that's a really good one to have. This one's really good. Gunslinger, if you plan on trying to get close and just try to use Pierce to your advantage. Real cast it, especially if you have Maul, especially because she's got 2 health. And then just the Mando Super Commando if you're just, trying to save points and or, you just want to get him up there. Now, Gar Saxon, he's also going to benefit from the Courage 3 if you do take the Darksaber on Maul. He doesn't have, defend or tactical or anything. So, it's just kind of hard to justify him at 105 points, bringing him in with, 5 health and 2 courage. Range 1 to 2 gun is nice. Pierce 1, red, 2 black, and white, but, there's a lot of possible upgrades on him, but right now we're just talking about the Super Commandos, and I think that he is just a good one to involve with these Mandalorian Super Commandos if you are not bringing Maul. So that's why I have him up here, because I think these two really synergize the best with the Mandalorian Super Commandos. So those 2 units I would usually bring if you are bringing the Mandalorian Super Commandos. So let's take a few examples real quick, and let's take a look at them. So you have Maul with Force Choke, Force Push, Into the Fray, and Darksaber. That way you have your Mandalorians who can benefit from cover. You've got Gar Saxon, and you've got 2 other Mandalorian units. So you have 3 Mando units in here all together. The reason I have Gar Saxon in here is because Compel could be really nice, especially when you have a Courage 3 commander. And then you have another person using Compel for these Mandos to make sure that they get that extra move so they can be more in range at that range 1 to 2 and go ham. And then I have up close and personal the combat shield and the jetpack rockets on Gar Saxon because I'm using Gar Saxon to get in close with these other Mandos. And so I want him to be able to get those dodges when he needs, have the combat shield every other turn, and then have the jetpack rockets so he can always have blast. And he's still got, a range 1 to 2 weapon. And you're probably going to be moving him in a lot. And then the reason I have the jetpack rockets is because you're probably seeing a lot of armor on the table now, especially with the Dark Troopers. You're probably also seeing a lot of anti-armor and a lot of impact on the field. When you have that, you might have blast because of the fact that you want impact and blast together. Because at least the airspeeder has cover 1. And the LAT has cover 1 and armor, and if a vehicle is 50% covered, it's going to benefit from cover, so that's why the blast is really, really nice on these jetpack rockets. And you're probably going to see, again, like I said, you're probably going to see a lot of armor on the field, and so you're probably also going to see a lot of impact now, which, when you have a lot of impact, you're probably forgetting to take a lot of sharpshooter. And now Pierce with Sharpshooter is going to be good because you're probably going to have a lot of people who are just trying to counter the Dark Troopers and have a lot of impact in their list. But like I said, with a lot of impact, they're forgetting to have, Pierce or Sharpshooter. So it's benefit, you got to kind of build a list based on what you think is going to happen. And this is kind of a really good anti-armor list because you're going to have the impact 8 for 1 turn. And then you have another impact 2 with Gar Saxon's rockets, and he can cycle those every other turn. So you're always going to have a pretty good high impact rate. Then you've got to fill the rest of your list with core, and then I also chose to have another Pike Capo to have 3 commanders, 4 core, and 2 special forces. Now, I have the emergency stems with the Mandalorian Super Commandos here because there were not enough points to have the combat shield. And I didn't have situational awareness on anybody because, with Fight Another Day and Victory or Death, those 2 turns, you're going to be able to give the Mandalorians and Garsaxin, outmaneuver. So they're going to be able to just go ahead, get the order, and you're going to be giving it to Garsaxin and both commandos each turn, and they're going to gain their dodges, and then they're also going to gain outmaneuver, and they're also going to gain another, token. So each time that you play this, each unit's going to gain an aim token and a dodge because of Defend 1. And then for Fight Another Day, they're all going to gain a dodge, and then you just, they all have outmaneuver, and they are all gaining 2 dodges each turn. Two dodges that turn, I should say. So that'll be a really good, making sure that they get their dodges, and then they can move in really fast, leaving Maul to just kind of try to do what he can. And yeah, it's 9 activations. You've got Rook in there to go with Maul so that, she gains the extra thing from Retinue, extra token from Retinue. So maybe she's close to Maul, but you gave her an order from Garsaxin, so maybe she gets an order that she gets dodge, and then she got the order from Garsaxin, which gives her dodge, so that's 2 dodges, and then she gains Retinue, so then she gains an aim or another dodge, so you just got dodges on Rook cast like crazy. So at least that one could last a while, and then that turn she gains outmaneuver, so she's going to really be able to use those dodges to cancel as many hits as possible and crits as possible, and with the fact that you've got heavy cover now everywhere, and then they surge to defense, you're hoping that they last forever. So yeah, that is, the benefit of having Rookcast, Garsaxin, and Maul all together in one list. It just lacks bounty, which I love, and I always feel like I always want bounty in my list because I never want to end on a stalemate. I always want to try and have that extra victory token. But yeah, that is this list. Let's go quickly into another one with Maul and Mandos by themselves. I have the Pike Capo with improvised orders. If you don't want the improvised orders on there, you're going to be saving a few points, and you might be able to get a 6-point bid and win, but you never really know. So just kind of depends. And, the person with the highest points will win a tie. If, victory points are the same, then it'll go towards that red player. So that's another reason why, it's kind of, for me, I like to have a little bit closer to 800. This time I have Maul with Force Barrier, the Darksaber Force pushing into the fray. It's a little bit more expensive, but what I'm really hoping to do is just not have to roll, So Maul with Force Barrier can cancel 2 hits or a crit from a friendly trooper unit at range 1. So, if you wanted to save the Super Commandos with Rook, maybe you had a few hits coming in, maybe you had, 4 hits coming in after cover. Maybe you gave her an order, and so she gets a dodge, and then you have Retinue, dodge. She's got situational awareness on here, so you have 4 hits coming through. Maybe you Force Barrier 2 of those, and then you spend those 2 dodges, and you still have your combat shield. And you didn't even have to roll, and you could still spend those combat shields later because you've already spent your dodges. And yeah, so Force Barrier can be really, really helpful. And then you also have another 2 random Super Commando units with just the regular generic Commando guy, the combat shields, and the jetpack rockets. This is giving you at least, impact 12 for 1 turn. And then you have Maul, who's got impact 2 naturally with his Darksaber and Pierce 2. So in case there was more armor, he could get in and try to go ham. Now, this one, again, it's $7.99 and 9 activations. And so we're really cutting it close to 800 points. And, it's hard to get above 9 activations when you're involving Mandos. And you're still trying to keep a super good army. And with this one, he's got the Darksaber, so again, he's Courage 3 with these Commandos, and he can lead them safely however he needs. And then lastly, we have just Gar Saxon with 4 Mando units. So we're, not quite at 800, which is really, really nice, but we made Gar Saxon a little bit more offensive, offensive, and gave him more long range stuff so that he doesn't have to get in so close because he is the commander. And then you've got, 2 super commandos with the gunslinger to be able to have Pierce. And then you've got 2 generic guys with the combat shields and the rockets. This is giving you, impact, 16? That's super nice to have. So maybe that could probably take out an ATST the first round. Is if you can keep them alive, I should say. Because you don't have Maul with, force barrier to be able to keep them alive a little bit more. But at least you have Gar Saxon who can hand out dodges to himself and these guys for a round. But yeah, that's really it, That's, I think I've maybe come out with this list before and talked about it, but, these are the Super Commandos. It's really hard to get above 9 activations with full commandos. Let's see what would happen if we did just go with this real quick, and we did Force Choke, Force Push, because, let's let Gar Saxon kind of go do his thing, and let Maul just kind of go on his own for a second. We'll try the Darksaber for now. Like I said, let's try to give Gar Saxon up close and personal. Let's give him his combat shield with recharge, and then let's go with the jetpack rockets for the blast and, impact 2. And then let's go with the commandos with just the shield. And let's try the jetpack rockets. Let's try and you're really not going to be able to get very much. You're still only getting, 8 activations. Man, let's take away all of the jetpack rockets. Yeah, no, you're still looking at just like 9 activations. But you at least have more Mandos. Maybe you take away one of the shields. Man, that's still... Yeah, that's 9 activations still with just the Mandos. And if you give 2 of them, you have 12 points. You can get a 12-point bid, or maybe instead you go with the flame projector, or we take that off. We give you Hunter, which decreases by 2 points, and then you give yourself the long-range gun because he's got Sharpshooter 1, so at least that's still going to help with cover. You have a 9-point bid. You still have a lot of naked, very, very naked units, so you have to be very, very careful with how you use them. But, yeah, it's just hard. But I wanted to go over a Mandalorian Super Commando, unit list breakdown and kind of what synergizes with them the most, and it's mostly Maul with the Darksaber and Gar Saxon, and Shadow Collective. You're not really going to be able to get too fancy if you want mostly Mandos. But alright guys, that is it. Hopefully this kind of helped a little, and I wanted you guys to at least kind of understand the Mandos a little bit more in the Shadow Collective and be able to use them a little bit more to your advantage. They're great with Maul. They're better with Maul. They're great with the Gar Saxon. So yeah, just kind of pick what you would like and go with that one. And now also, I want to go ahead and give out the winner of the $20 gift card. But first, in order to be entered in to win the gift card next time, which will be the second week of April, not the first week, that whole, second through, the 9th, I will be out for the most part, so I will probably have a video, out for that, but then, I'm going to be getting out another video way later than that in the second week to announce. But all you have to do is be a subscriber, leave a comment on this video and other videos in the future, and that gets you to enter in the $20 gift card. But I want to go ahead and announce the winner for this one, and it is Brandon L. Congratulations, Brandon. Now, all you have to do is get in contact with me, and once you do, just give me some information on how to give you that $20 Amazon gift card through your email, and boom, there you go. And then also, I also want to thank Kitsune and Anthony for being a Patreon member. Thank you guys so much for everything you've done and everything you do. I really appreciate it, and I'm very happy for the donations that you give each month. But, alright guys, hopefully you've had a great day. Hopefully you have a good day, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.